Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good wherever you are. JP here with Websites for Beginners, and I hope you are doing well and staying safe. Today, we tackle oxygen in our first Reconstructed Oxygen. This is a series for beginners, and at Websites for Beginners, remember, one of our approaches here is no coding. And I say that up front because when it comes to oxygen, this is one mega powerful tool, especially if you're a developer. And that puts off a lot of newcomers when they see oxygen because they maybe watch some tutorials online and they think, I can never do that. Stay calm, relax, take a pill, because you don't need to do that. You can do the simple stuff that's going to give you awesome websites. And that's what Websites for Beginners is all about. So grab a cup of coffee, get yourself some rusks, sit back and relax. We're going to tackle oxygen, and we are going to be making this standard basic hero section that we are building out in Reconstruction series for the first episode. And let's quickly just focus here, focus mode, dark version, and then we'll have a light version, and then we will also have one with the image in the background. Most importantly, we will also have a look at how this behaves on a mobile device. Here I've got a Galaxy S20. A little bit too much spacing there. We can fix that, not a problem. And then also with an image, definitely. For these two, too much spacing, but with the image, that looks pretty good. A few more words about oxygen. Oxygen is a very powerful tool. Now, I'm not a coder at all. But I love oxygen because oxygen brings something which many other page builders do not give me, and that is extreme control, even at the basic level, which I love. I just find there are certain parts in oxygen that gives me that satisfaction, like, okay, I could dial it in. The other thing you're going to find about oxygen, it's also very, very fast. The only thing that may be a little bit off-putting about oxygen is sometimes the UI and how you work. Things are not always where you will expect it to be. But again, I guess I don't even think about that anymore when I use it. I will point out a few strange things here and there. But remember, this is a building tool. So once you get used to how it works, you're definitely not going to think about it again. Final word on oxygen is the pricing. Now, I am one of the lucky ones that got oxygen at $99 way back when it came out. And that means that if you go today and you buy the Ultimate at $229, I only paid $99 for that. The lesson here is that when you see something, you're unsure about it, just grab onto it and get it as soon as possible. Because as they bring in new functionality, you're going to see the price go up. And you can see every time they add something new, like here is WooCommerce, price goes up. Agency, which is kind of control with Guten blocks, and you can have client control, price goes up. And then composite elements, the latest one, price goes up. And this is what you have to keep in mind, that these kind of things are going to cost you the longer you wait. If you've never touched oxygen, this is the video to start. I'll show you how we're going to build it out. That developer tool I showed you at the beginning with the different responsive views is called Sissy. You can see the link there, sissy.co. I'll also post a link in the description for you below. And I use that to just make sure that everything looks good on different displays, as page builders don't do a perfect job at that. The other tip I can give you is that if you are completely new and you've never done any website development and you want to just try it for free without spending any money, then the way to go is with a local host, a local server, which means it's on your computer and you can try it there. And that's what I'm currently using. This one is called Local. And also, again, I'll add the link in the description for you below that you can try. Right, so let's begin. We go into WordPress. Oxygen is already installed. Create a new page. And if you have no idea what I'm currently doing, it means you have no idea about WordPress. Check out the WordPress tutorials here on Website for Beginners. We're going to call this Recon 01 for Reconstructed 01. And the first thing we will do is publish. And it will tell me, do you want to publish? This is a pre-published check. In these tutorials, I don't need it. Maybe if you are careful to doing things live, you want to have this double check. I don't need it, so I deselect it here. Always show pre-published checks, and I say publish. In the future, it's not going to ask me that again. Now, if I close here, I get the Edit with Oxygen button here, and this is where we're going to jump into. Oxygen is a site builder. I call it site builder. Many people are talking about theme builders, but in my opinion, the theme is one part of the whole package is a site builder. And by that, I mean, you can build a theme, which include headers and footers, and you can also build out pages. Also take into consideration that you can build out WooCommerce and many other things. That's why I refer to them lately as site builders. And most traditional page builders, they are all site builders. They've made this transition in the last 2 years. There's a lot we can do here, and in other videos, not in the Reconstructed series, I will show you how to create templates, headers and footers, and then how do you assign those templates over here when you go in. For now, we don't need it. We're just going to work with a blank canvas. We're just going to build out that hero section. Edit with Oxygen. Let's have a quick look at this page and all the different panels. This is your canvas area over here, our white area. Currently, you have nothing. And then from here, it's going to be your editor settings as well as where you add new elements to the page. And I think they are called elements, composite elements. So yeah, they are called elements. The other part that's also quite useful, and you will actually see new page builders or new builders like bricks actually comes default with it open, is this structure view here. I think Oxygen popularized this. Before this, many people thought, what's the use? I still hear many developers say, why do you want that? I use it all the time. It's a really, really useful feature. Click on structure, and it's going to open this panel on the right. This will give you a tree view, a folder view of what's going on your page, what is inside what, and we'll have a look at that as it builds out. You can close it as well here for now. And currently you can see there's only body. This is the body, the body. Your save button is up here. And this is the big shortcoming of Oxygen. For some reason, they haven't really spent time on shortcuts. For me, who's a big hotkey person, using my controls and my commands and setting up shortcut keys, it really speeds up the process. Strangely, Oxygen hasn't spent much time on it, and it's been how many years now? We still don't really see that. Finally, at least we have an undo function, which we never used to have, but that would be one of my dreams in Oxygen, is to have just very good dedicated shortcut keys. If they've maybe shown up in a recent version, which I'm not aware of, just let me know in the description below. Now, what we want to do is start building out the page. And within Oxygen, the first thing you will need is a section, and you're going to get that as part of the element. So here it says select an element or click the plus add button. There's no elements here. So we go up here to click plus add. And this is going to give us all the elements that we can use. Let's have a look at what we've got here. These are called basics. I'm a minimalist designer, which means I don't go for fancy things. I used to be that guy that if it moved, it was on my page. If it bounced 3 times on my website. But I've totally gotten over that. I'm very minimalistic in approach now. And I basically just work with images, icons, text, and buttons. Really, I don't go for the fancy things. I'll use some kind of wrapper and containers, like maybe if I have a tab or toggles. And the reason why I've moved to that direction is because the fancy design is great for your desktop monitors, but they just incredibly suck on mobile displays. And I've decided to go for a mobile first direction, which is I try to think in terms of mobile, and things that move on a mobile just doesn't translate well. So I've also removed it from my desktop. So if you're looking for all the flashy, bouncy, particle little glitter things, you're not going to find it on this channel here. With that long intro, you're going to see that most of what I'm going to do here under basics, because everything I need will be here most of the time under basics. When we go into header and footer design, we jump around to a few other things. You'll notice these with the little purple. These are the composite elements, and we will discuss them much later. Then you have helpers, which are additional extra ones. You can see a lot of composite elements over there. And then you have WordPress with dynamic data, widgets and sidebars. Library, very nice, where you're going to get design sets from Oxygen. And these are growing, very useful to kickstart. And we go back to the basics. The containers up here, section, div, and columns. Now the section one is kind of self-explanatory. That gives you the box, the block in which you're going to be working on your page. To bring that onto your page, there's no dragging here. It's click and it moves onto the page automatically. So as I click on it, it drops there and it gives me a nice purple outline indicating that, hey, this thing is there on the page. I also have the editor with the settings open now here on the left, and you will see up here many cues what you are working with. It will tell you this is a section. It also shows the name, section number 1. If I add another section, so let's go to add, click on section again, we see a second one, we see section 2. Let's add another one. And by now you should know, Bobby, it's going to tell us section number 3. Let's see how we can delete it. To select anything, you simply click on it on the page. And I like this because some builders require a double click, which I think just learn from these guys. Double click is extra work. One single click is very easy. And as I click on it, you will see also up here, it changes from section 2 to section 3. To delete it, you can go here to the editor and click here on remove component. Before we do that, let's just open the structure here. And now you will see under the body, we have 3 sections. Let's delete section 3 by clicking here in the editor, remove component. Then select section 2. And as I select it, also note that this label here is highlighted. Section 1, highlighted. Section 2, highlighted. I can also go here in the structure and you see delete over here for remove component and remove. Select the first one. Take note, there's no right clicking in Oxygen. Many page builders have a right click function. You can just right click and delete. I'm getting the right contextual menu for Microsoft Edge, which I'm working in at this moment. Let's close the structure to get a little bit more real estate and see our page. Go back to the add. And I want to just point out this term here, div. Div is a scary term for many people who come to website design. What on earth is a div? And then you see it even has these strange little symbols with an open bracket and a forward slash and then a closing bracket over there. What is this? The div is probably the most important element you're going to find in Oxygen and many other page builders now that start using this foundation, especially with Flex Design. If what I just said sounds to you like Martian, don't worry, I'll explain it to you over time. The good news is in this first reconstruction, we're not going to be using the div at all. We're only going to be using the section. If I had to give the div a very easy English translation name, it's container. It's just a little block or a smaller section that you can use. And you're going to see when we get to columns, a column is comprised out of div. In fact, I often don't even use the column structure within Oxygen. I just use the divs because by doing just the divs, I get more control over it. Personal choice. With that, we are done. We have our section here now, and let's go and do some editing to the section. To go back to the section settings, just click here on Add again, and we are back within the settings. Here we have 2 tabs, Primary and Advanced. Very misleading terms. Again, you may be scared to go into advanced thinking, oh, I don't want to touch this, I'm going to tell you that most of what we're going to do is going to be in advanced. Oxygen has made some decisions that they believe the things you will use the most, they put under primary. That's what Oxygen believes. They think these are the things that you will probably use the most when you are working with the section, so we put it here. The other things we think maybe you won't use it that much, or for some reason is advanced, they put it over here. That's completely not true. I've thought of how I would rename these two labels. I couldn't come up with a better solution, so we just flow with it. In essence, though, there's some basics, the main stuff you're going to find under primary, and then more settings you're going to find under advanced. I would have just called this maybe more settings. You're going to see we will almost always dive into the advanced because that's what Oxygen is all about, giving you the control. I want to change the background color with my section selected, and we know it is selected because it's highlighted. We have this little one here, and up here we can see it says section. Background color, and then if I click on it, it gives me the selector. Within the color editor, I can change the hue, and then change the transparency or add transparency and change the opacity with this slider. If I have the code for the color, you go to the box over here, close it, and then simply type in. Very important, always start with a hash in Oxygen. Many page builders will just let you put in the code. You don't need the hash. Oxygen is a little bit finicky over that hash, so remember the hash. The code we use is 363636, which gives us, if I click now on it, this gray over here. And just click on it to close it again. Nifty features here for save as global color. We'll tackle this in a future lesson. To observe then is that we have changed the background color of the section here on the right, and we are happy with that. Now let's bring in some content, and I want to bring in an above title. To bring in an element, go to add, and under basics, we have 3 text elements to choose from: heading, text, and rich text. Anything that's just a line, a sentence, or a heading, you go for heading. If it's paragraphs, you go for text. To place it on the page, first select the section, and we know it is selected because we see this purple border and it says section, and simply click on this element, and Oxygen will drop it onto the page. Observe now that our section label has moved here to the bottom and it's in pink, and that our element, the heading element, has been highlighted in purple. So whatever you are editing will appear in purple. If you go and click outside the heading element, you're going to select this section again, as so. Now we see section again is purple. Hover over the element and you see that orange. I think it's orange. If you click on it, you select it. Very simple. We also know it is selected because here in the editor on the left, you will see it says section, a little breadcrumbs, and then heading. And it tells us it's heading number 4. It's not heading number 4, it's just div or container number 4. Again, you can check also on the structure. Now we have a section and this dotted indented heading showing that it is within the section. I'll close this. When we go back here, we're going to edit the heading. Under primary, let's change the font first, and I'll look for Poppins. And in future lessons, we will see how you can set up global styles, which will make this much easier and quicker. Poppins, and then the text color. I'll just grab this and move it all the way to the top left where I get my white color. And then the font size, I'm going to put this at 20 pixels. Font weight, 500. And my tag, I'll put on H3. I want this in uppercase. To do that, I will have to go into the advanced, which in my opinion is more settings. Advanced, and then look for typography. Note that next to advanced, there's this little dot with a stripe, and then next to typography, there's also that little dot with the stripe. This indicates that changes have been made to this specific setting. And the reason, even though we haven't been in here, is because we made changes to the typography here under primary. And you will see that all these settings are under typography within advanced. Click and open it, and you will see pop-ins, 20, it's white, and there's our font weight. I want this text to be in the middle of my section. And you may be tempted to think that, okay, I have to align it over here. And when you click on it, nothing happens. This text alignment is text alignment within the container. And remember, when you look here, you will see this container is as wide as the text. That's the container. So it's not going to work in this case. You don't need to select it. I'll click on it to deselect it. Before I do any other changes here, I completely forgot to change the text itself. To do that, you go onto the page, select everything. I triple click inside it to select it, and I'll type in lorem ipsum. And you can see here a very good example of the text container shrinking and wrapping around the text. Let's go back to the settings over here. I will first put this on uppercase, and that's here under text transform. Uppercase gives me nice uppercase, and I'll add letter spacing of 1 pixel. There's a little bit of space between the container at the top and the bottom and the sentence, and that is line height. If I remember correctly, line height here is 1.4. Let me just check. 1.6. Yeah, 1.6. Because I'm working with a heading, I just remove all line height and I'll put it on 1. That just lets me know where I am. Right, so how do we get this to the middle? Click on your section, and this is where we instruct our section that all the elements, which we often refer to as child elements, within this container, within this section, we want them to be center aligned. And this you will get under the primary area of the section. I will point it out a few times just so you can get used to it. We know the section is selected because we see this purple and it says section, and we can also see section over here. And if you're still doubtful, you go to structure and you will see that section is highlighted in this baby blue. I'll close that. And under primary, you have here the child element layout. Vertical, horizontal, and lately newly added grid. Pretty awesome. You can only choose one of these three. What it means vertical is that anything I drop in here is going to be on top of each other. And let me just show you how that will look. If I go to add and I click on heading, it's going to bring in another heading over here. Let's just change the color, put it on white, and we see we have the lorem ipsum and now a second heading. Click again on the section, and vertical, if I select it, nothing happens. By default, Oxygen is going to put it on vertical, so you don't even have to select it if you're happy with it. If you're confused, just select it. The other one is horizontal, and what horizontal is going to do, click, is it's going to drop the elements next to each other, adjacent to each other. And then you have a third one where you can build it out to your heart's content, and that is grid. Gives you full control over how you want it to look. In this tutorial, we are extremely happy with vertical, so I can select vertical, or I can just deselect it, and it will keep it the way it is. It seems though, after I've selected grid, Oxygen is confused, and when I click on vertical and I deselect it, it's removed. So go back and click on vertical. Now the important part comes, where do we want these elements aligned within our section? And I want them in the center. That's what I originally wanted for my text. Click on it, and nicely everything moves to the middle. Super duper. We've added this above title, which we'll just call lorem ipsum, and then we're going to have our main heading. Let's bring in some real lorem ipsum text. I'll open my generator lorem ipsum.io, and I'll grab a little line over here, copy that, come back, click inside here, and then triple click to select everything, or Control Command A to select everything. I'll paste it, Control V, Command V. And I have everything in small little letters, small caps at the moment. Because we've pasted and selected it, you can see our heading is open here on the left. and then we make some changes to the primary section first. Again, we're going to go for Poppins. Select Poppins. Text color, it's not 100% white, so let's just make sure it is white. There we go. Font size, this one I'll put at 40 pixels. Font weight, well, let's do that at 700. And tag is H2. Then we go to Advanced Typography. We need to make a few changes here. First, I will go to Text Transform and put it on uppercase. And then I can also reduce the line height again to 1. When I do that, these two are going to be extremely close to each other. I prefer it like that. I'll rather add a little bit of margin and space than mess it with the line height. We'll come back and change the line height in a wee bit. Next, what I have in mind is to have this line break into 2 lines. And that will just give it a little bit of structure. Click back on all styles, and then we go to size and spacing. This will give us padding, margins, as well as width and height control over here. And here you will come up with 20,000 ways to do it, and I will add another 20,001 ways that we can achieve it. So this is purely a suggestion. The first way you can do it, of course, is add padding on the left and the right. And I can add some padding there. I'll just say, let's say 100 pixels on the left, 100 pixels on the right. And we start squashing it, not enough, so let's add a little bit more. Let's put it at 250 pixels, and then 250 pixels on that side, and we're getting closer to it. You can also select next to the PX percentage. So if you already want percentage, then you can do that. So what I will do is let's put it on 25%, and then this one also on 25%. Select it, 25%. See if that does it. Just want to see if we put it at 30 and 30. I chose, no, didn't choose a very good title up here, but that's good, 25%. Let's reset this, and to do that, you simply select and delete. And then you have an option for the container. That's the whole purple box you see here under the width. And what we can do here, in this case, I'm going to put it to the viewport width. That is the full width of the screen it's being displayed on. And I'll say it should only take 60% of the viewport width. Not enough. Let's reduce it to 50. There we go. And now it will stretch to 50% basically, or 50 units of the viewport width. Another way that you can bring in space within elements and on elements is by simply dragging on the page. For example, these two titles now are way too close to each other. If I go here to my heading, my main heading, and I hover at the purple line at the top, you will see that purple line outside. And that's indicating I have margin area that I can click and drag. If I click and drag on it, I will add margin. And as I let go, observe what happens to the margin sitting in the editor on the left. It jumps here to 31 pixels. The only sad part is that I don't get a heads-up display over how many pixels I add. Usually it's not important, but in case it was important for you, you will actually have to go into the settings over here and add it yourself. And if you're pixel perfect, then we are going to put it on 30 pixels like so. Let's put it down to 25 pixels. And that way you can also just drag on it. Very nice way of doing it as well. Let's bring in a button now for our call to action. To show you how we bring in more elements, click on the top heading and then go to Add and look for your button under Basics here and select the button. And Oxygen will drop the button underneath the element that was last selected. Let's delete it. Button is selected. We see it says button here. Remove it. Let's click now on the last heading. Go to Add and Button again, and it drops it where we want it. Delete it one more time, and this time select the section. Whenever you select the section and you add a new element, Oxygen is going to bring in that element at the bottom. And in this case, we want the button at the bottom, so you can click again on plus and button, and it drops in here. Let's add space first between our main heading and the button. And we're going to do that by going to the button, hover outside until you see that purple bar, and click and drag. Unfortunately, no heads-up display, so you just gauge it with your eye, and if you're happy with it, you let go. If you want to know exactly what the pixels are for this one, you go here to your button settings, make sure it is selected, button, primary, advanced, size and spacing, and you will see the margin is set to 112 pixels. I think that's too much, so I'll select it and type in 75 pixels. Change the text first, and we do that on page. I'll click here, and then I'll select everything by triple clicking, and I'll type in View More. View More. And then we go back, click on Primary to see what we've got here. URL, that's the first thing I'll put in, https://w4b.io. And click on Set, because we want it to open in a new tab. Remember that one, otherwise it's going to open within the page. Then we can skip this. I want a solid. I'll select solid, but by default it is solid. And then the button size, it includes the font. Let's put that on 16. No, that's button size, not the font. So 10 was the default. Let me just delete that again. I think it's 10. No, that's fine. So I'll just give 10 there. And it comes in with this default blue color. I'll select that, and then I'll put it on white. And then under this one for the text color, I will change this to hash. Type in the hash 363636, and we get our color again. Text size, this is where I'll put it to 16. And then font family, Poppins again. Poppins, cannot see it. Right, and font weight, I think 400 is good enough here. I'll just select it. A few things that I want to change though. I want more padding on the left and the right, and I want to put it in uppercase, and I want to remove those rounded corners. As I hover over the button, you will see that inside I have these little purple boxes that appear. That means you can drag the padding on the page. If I go here to the left and I click, hold and drag, inside I add more padding, and you will see it does it on both sides at the same time. Because in most cases, for a button, you will want it on both sides. Right. Then let's go to advanced and see what we've got here. Size and spacing. Let's start here. 40 pixels. That's pretty good. Usually that's what I like. And I'm not too fussy about the top and bottom padding. I think that's fine. Click back. Then we go to typography. And what we want is uppercase. And letter spacing, maybe 2 pixels. Now that's too much. Let's put it on 1 pixel for a little bit of spacing. And then I want to remove those corners. So click back to all styles, and we'll find that at borders. And you will see border radius is set to 0. That's a lie. It's not set to 0. I think it's at 3. And I've found that sometimes even if you click 0 here, it doesn't register. So what I do is I just type 1, and then I type back and I type 0. And that gives me my sharpity sharp corners. Goody. Thus far, we've made a cardinal sin and we've not saved our work. So let's just go and do it up here. Click on the purple save. And if you want to view it on the front end, go here to where it says back to WordPress, and you can click on the front end. If you click front end, it's going to exit Oxygen and go to the front end. As I just want to view it as a preview, I don't want to exit Oxygen. So to get it to go to the front end but not close my builder, you can do a few things. Click, hold on front end and drag it up here to your tab area and just drop it here and it will open the front end. And there you go. Let's close it. Before we close it, note that this is 1 line, whereas this is 2 lines. We'll talk about that soon. Close it and go back into the builder. Let's add a hover effect for our button. And Oxygen comes with a hover option from the beginning. So we're not going to work on hover states. We're going to go for the shortcut. Click on the button. It's selected. When it's purple, make sure you're under primary and you will see button hover color. I will select that, put it on white, and then with that selected, reduce the opacity to around 70. And now when I hover over it, you will see it gets a little bit grayed out. So I've applied that hover effect. That's right within the button. There are other ways we can do it in Oxygen by hover state. We'll tackle that in other tutorials. Let's save it. And finally, add some more padding at the top and the bottom. Click your section. And as you hover at the top and the bottom, you will see these purple bars appear. And you can click, hold, and drag. And on page, you can bring in the padding. Again, I would have liked a heads-up display. I don't see anywhere else. I'll go into Advanced under Size and Spacing because we're applying padding, which is top and the bottom. And I'll just type it in here, 100 for the top and 130 for the bottom. Save our work again. And now we get to the point where we have to start talking about responsiveness. I love working with responsiveness within Oxygen. Responsiveness is all about making sure that your websites will look very good on mobile and tablets. And Oxygen gives you a few breakpoints, a few options to choose from. With our section still selected, click on Primary. We just have the primary. And then up here under the Word section, you will see this little monitor drop down. Select that and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the first one is called All Devices. And basically what all devices mean is that this is the biggest screen you can get. It doesn't matter how big the screen, if it's a 8K or bigger, this will look this way on all of those screens and it will stretch to all of those screens. The 4 below that are the important ones. The first one is this page container 1120 and below. If I select it, you will notice that it's going to shrink my area, add this gray, and now I can only see the section. This page container at 1120 pixels, you usually find for your laptops and your MacBooks. That's very standard. So making sure it looks good on this, you are probably ensuring it looks good on the majority of laptops out there. After this, the next one is going to be tablet, and you will see it shrinks again. And then we get to the bigger phones like the Notes. And then at 480, we get to the mobile devices. 480, actually still big. A lot of mobile devices go as narrow as 360 pixels. How we work with responsiveness in Oxygen is that whenever you want to make a change, let's start at the top, you cycle one down and you make changes. That change will be translated to all the devices below. So it's a good idea to always work top down when you are making these changes. Having selected this normal page container, we understand everything looks pretty good here. If we select the next one, we start to see that our text here is a little bit squashed. Maybe we want it a little bit wider. We set this heading under Advanced, make sure it is selected, and then you go to Size and Spacing, and this is where we had changed it. We changed the width. We put it at viewport width, and previously I think we put it at something like 60 or 50. This time we want a little bit more space, so let's add 70, and 70 works for us on this display. I'm also going to decrease the size of the text just a little bit. So click back on All Styles, Typography and Font Size, I'll just put it on 36, just a tad. Next, as this is selected, you can just go down. Before I do that, next to the one we are working on currently, we see there is now a little remove button. It shows us that we've made changes to this responsive display and that if we want to come back and we want to remove it, we can simply click there. So let's go to the next one. And again, we have a problem here. It's squashed and our text is too big. So the first thing, as it is selected, you will see the font size is still open. I'm going to reduce this to 30 and then click back. We go again to Size and Spacing, select Viewport Width, which is basically just percentage, and I'll put it on 60. That's too big, too small, too narrow. 70, not enough. 80, and 80 works for me. Next one is we will go then to our less than 480 pixels. And for this one, I'm going to first change my text size. Go to typography, font size, and I'll put it at 20. And you see immediately it drops to 2 lines already. However, as I know that many devices out there have very narrow displays and some of them run at 360 pixels, I wished that there was a way I could actually make this breakpoint even narrower. And yes, there is. One way, if you notice here at the bottom, pay attention, there is a ruler in pixels. And I can grab these 2 little bars here and I'll drag it all the way to around here where it's about 360 pixels. And it will make it narrow according to what I want. And I see it still looks good. So now I know that this will display properly on something like a iPhone X or a Samsung Galaxy S20, which latest versions. If I look at the lorem ipsum, this text is also too big. But remember what I told you, be careful to start styling it at the bottom displays. Rather go again to the top, click on lorem ipsum, and then cycle through it and make sure it looks good. And then when I get here, I think maybe now it's a little too big, so I'll go and change the font size to 16. And then I'll go down and I'll change the font size. You see, now it is at 16. It inherits it from the one I just changed above, and I'll change it to 14. And I think we can even change the font weight. Let's put it on 200. And if I go up 1 level now, you will see it's still at 400. And that's just super, super awesome. Great. We've done this. Let's save. And then we go back to the thing I pointed out to you earlier and how we're going to fix this. I'll go back to WP, click, hold the front end and drag it up here. And then I'm going to select this URL. And I'll go to Sysy. I'll paste this one and reload. And forget about the desktop for this moment. Have a look at these other guys. See, on my Galaxy S20, from the bat, it looks good. And this is one of the things I really love about Oxygen. When a builder can give me this control to make sure it looks good on these displays, I don't need to guess and hunt around the whole time to ensure it looks good. And only 50% of the builders currently on the market actually has this. Most of them will still go for bigger displays, and when you start testing them on these other devices, they don't look good. Oxygen, thank you very much for that. It looks good. One thing though, remember, if we're talking about a hero section on a mobile device, we usually want more space at the top and the bottom, whereas maybe on the tablet and even here on our desktop views, we don't want. So before we talk about this elephant, let's go and add some space to our mobile displays. We go back, I'll just close these 2. And we will select up to here, less than 480. And I'll simply just drag a little bit space there at the top and at the bottom. Let's save that. Go back to Sysy. Refresh, and let's see how it looks now. Good, I have this space. Especially, I'll be bringing in an image. It will look much better than just this empty space at the moment. What's happening here is that this is set at 1920 pixels, which is your standard HD resolution. But remember, when we were working here in Oxygen and we go to all devices, which is more than 1120 pixels, this width of this box, click on it, heading, advanced, size and spacing, we put to 50 of the viewport width, which is 50% of the entire screen. However, this area we see here is not 1920 pixels. So it takes 50% of this area here, and it looks like this. But to show you actually that it will stretch to 50, and I'm making you very confused, you can go up here, just under add, it says hide, and click on it, and it's going to give us more space. And by doing that, you see that it has now stretched the heading container. And now we see it's not working the way we want it to work. This is very standard when you just have a container and you don't put your elements inside something. And this takes us back to the very beginning where I mentioned this one. Go to Add, go to Basics, a div. This is where I will bring in a section, and then I'll put a div inside the section, and then I'll put all these elements inside that div. But there is a workaround for this, and there are actually numerous workarounds, and I really appreciate when we were doing this for bricks, I got a lot of good feedback on that as well. The one way, like I just said, is I would actually bring in a div and then put all the elements inside that div, and then I can achieve it by keeping the div to a specific width. In our case here, click here to go back to our settings, going to Advanced, Size and Spacing. Instead of giving it a flexible viewport width or percentage, I'm going to put it in pixels, and I'm going to fix it. Let's see, around 700 pixels. Now this container is fixed at 700 pixels. If I hide this bar now, you will see it doesn't stretch because the container's width is 700 pixels. The container doesn't stretch with the width of the viewport of the display. Let's click here on Show again to bring it back. Click Save, go to CISY, refresh, and there we go. That looks perfect. So proud. Now let's duplicate this and make a light version. To duplicate, click on the section, and up here you will see this little plus, duplicate component. And to bring in white space between these two, I'll add another section. Click on the first section, add section, and it will drop this section between the two. And if you want to have a view how all of this looks on your page at this moment, go to Structure, and we can collapse this one. You will see we have three sections, section at the top, the white one in the middle, and the one we've duplicated at the bottom. And we can unfold it. We have our heading, we have our main heading, and we have a button. Let's change this out. So I'll click here on this heading, and I'll change the color to 3636, which means I'll type it in. And I'll show you, I think, in the next video, how we do that with global colors, which is just so much faster. Click on the next heading, hash 363636, and then click on the section. We change the background to white, and then we bring in a border. For the section, go to Advanced, Borders. We want to make sure we do all borders. The color is going to be 3636, so hash 3636, and I'll add a thick border of 25 pixels. And then you have to select what type of border, otherwise it's not going to display. I select solid, and there is our border. Let's change the button also. Click on the button, and then instead of a solid button, I'm going to click on Outline. The button color, though, we have to change to our friend 3636. And there we go. Let's change the hover color also to hash 363636. We can even reduce it a little bit. Let's see. Good. And that's how quickly we had done that. Let's do one more with an image in the back. Click on the top section. Click Duplicate. And we can go here to the structure on the right. Close this one at the bottom. Grab this section and drag it all the way to the bottom and drop it. And you will see it has moved here. I want to add white space again between these two sections. So I select the section one up, this one, and then I click on Add Section, and it will drop it below it. Always, Oxygen will drop whatever you've selected below where you want to place it. Then we go to this section here, and we're going to change out the color. It is selected because we see the purple box. Now change out the color, we want to bring in an image. So from primary, jump to advanced, choose background, and then background image. Click on browse, and you bring in the image that you want to use, and click on select. Great. I also want to add some space here at the bottom. So with this section selected, I'll bring in another section. You won't do this on a normal page. You won't just bring in sections that are empty. You don't do that on a web page. I'm just doing it here so we can have some white space and see what's going on around here. Good. So let's save that and go view it on Sizzy. Refresh. And we have very nicely, let's focus on this one first. Here is our hero section. Then we have our light version. Oh, the borders shrink. And I just clicked on view more. Okay, and it takes us. So the link is working. Very good job. Link is working. Who can complain about that? Let me just paste that one back in. So our light version is working, and then we have this one. A few issues here. Issue number one is that we cannot really see this white. It's over this light skin, and that means there's not enough contrast. And when you don't have enough contrast with the text, it becomes very difficult for people to read it. This is not good design principles unless it is the effect that you want to acquire. And often we run into this problem. We have a stunning background image for our hero banner, and then when we put the text over it, we cannot see it properly. And then we decide, the image is so awesome, I'm not going to put an overlay. And in the end, it sucks. So when you run into this, doesn't matter how much you paid for the stock photo, you need to apply a little bit of overlay. Otherwise, it just doesn't look good. Let's just also have a look on cell phone display because I want to indicate something else for you. So let's go to iPhone 12 and never focus on this one. This one looks fine. We don't have a problem with that. Let me drag. Also good. Pretty nice. Hey, Zimmerban, what's going on over here? Where did she go? And that is all to do with the positioning of images for the background in Oxygen. And here you'll have to take just a minute or two to grab onto your seats because I'm going to show you how to fix this. It might be a little bit foreign for you, especially if you are new to website making. I love it though. I love the control here though. Let's go back into the builder and I'll close the structure just to have a little bit more space. And the first thing we want to do is apply an overlay. Make sure your section is selected, advanced, background, and you will see we have the option here of image overlay color. When you want to apply contrast, the best way to do that is just with the solid black. I'll click here and I'll grab my selector all the way to solid black, and then I will reduce the opacity all the way to something like 20. 20 means 20%. Now you see already much better. If I increase it more, you see we can read it better. Image still looks good. And you can take it as high as around 60% and you still get the effect. So this is a matter of taste. I'm going to split it and go to 30. Yeah, and it still looks really, really good. Now, what do we do about making sure that this image comes in at center? So the first thing I'll check is the background size. By default, it comes in at cover. And you can see there's a thin little box around cover, gray little box there. That shows you that by default, this is the setting for the background size. I'm happy with this. This is what we want. Many other page builders will do it at auto and it will stretch it or even contain, which is what we don't want. It should just be by default in every builder out there at cover. So thank you, Oxygen, for giving us this default. Remember, you can click on it to deselect it and it will then apply the default. What we want to achieve here, though, is to make sure that this image is center, which means it's in the center from the top and from the sides, that it always focuses on the center. Which we see in many builders now is if we had a thumbnail here and you had a little dot that you can drag and you can place it directly where you want it to go. But we don't have that. Instead, we have these two, left and top. And what these two allow you to do is adjust where it focuses proportionally from the left or proportionally from the top. Hold on, right? I told you to hold on. Now, the easiest way to remember center is to put it on percentage. And 50% from the left will be 50% from the right, right? Type in that. and then 50% from the top will be 50% from the bottom. Type in 50. And that will give you center, center. Because we applied it all the way here to the top for all devices, this should translate all the way through to our mobile devices as well. I hope. Let's save it. Let's go to Sizzy. And let's just say here again on responsive mode. And refresh this. And have a look at our devices. There we go. So if you're not entirely sure what I had just done, just remember I had focused this image to always be in the center. From the top, center from the bottom, and the left and the right. And to put it in the center, you need 50% from the left, which will give you 50% to the right, and 50% from the top will give you 50% from the bottom. That's how you do it. Many people slip up with this one. They don't understand what's going on with the image. Especially, I'm telling you, you don't need coding. You don't need to know all these special stuff out there. Then you just do it here. There's super awesome features here in Oxygen. I just look at this gradient or this overlay we applied. Actually, there is this function here called gradient where you can add as many colors as you wish to the gradient and apply it as an overlay. Really, really awesome. And we'll tackle most of these in upcoming videos. This is where any page starts. It starts with a hero banner, and we've made awesome hero banners. Very simple one with an upper heading, and then we've had this one with a main heading, and then a button for a call to action. Don't be scared of Oxygen. I tell you, once you get used to it and you understand where everything is, this becomes a very fluid and super fast option for you out there. The more you learn the basics and you get comfortable with it, you can evolve to other videos, and you can go to the Oxygen website and their YouTube station. They've got a lot of advanced stuff over there that you can learn from. At Websites for Beginners, though, we remain with no coding, no CSS, no JS, no extra la-di-da stuff. We just look at the builder and help you get there and how you can build great websites. In the next episode for Oxygen Reconstructed, we will build another hero image with a few more bling to it, and we'll slowly build it up so that you can get very comfortable with how this powerful builder works. That's it for now. Have a great day, stay safe, and from me, JP, see you then again in the next video.